we are back, everybody. Thanks for joining us again at the 423 Football Podcast. Sorry for the absence yesterday. We were a little bit tired getting back from our fantastic trip in Green Bay, Wisconsin, seeing the Packers and Buccaneers play. But we are back again. Well, I should say I am back again, your host, Brandon Bouchard. Like I said, we're all kind of jumbled up right now, getting back from the trip and getting back to work, back to the real world. We're obviously going to have this show today, and we're going to be back tomorrow on Friday to talk more football, and it should be regular schedule from here on out. So, this is going to be our Week 14 preview show. We just kind of nixed the 13 recap show this week, so we're not going to have, obviously, I'm not going to go through standouts or flops or things like that. Obviously, waivers already went through. Sorry about that if you're looking at big waiver wire acquisitions. There really weren't that many. I know Peyton Barber was a hot one this week, but really not that many to discuss. But the most important thing I want to say, like if we ever have an absence like this again, like where we possibly miss a show, which hopefully not, fingers crossed, we like to stay on here and provide our intake through the podcast itself. But if we were to miss a show, it is very, very important that you follow us on Twitter at the 423 Football. We posted a little bit of content over there on Wednesday. I had some stock ups and stock downs for the week and the rest of the season. So definitely want to make sure you follow us at the 423 Football. That's I can't stress that enough. That's where we have a ton of information. Okay, so I just want to go through, and obviously I'm sure a few of you maybe are interested in wondering how the trip went to Green Bay. All of us went. If you saw, we posted a few pictures on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram of the trip. So it was, it was me, Brett, me and Brett, obviously, main guys on the podcast. Steele, who you've heard his voice before, Peyton, the old friend to the podcast, and Joseph went up there. Joseph we picked up in Milwaukee, so he got a little bit of a fresher start than we did. But long drive. I had fun. It was a fantastic trip. We drank, we ate, watched an incredible Packers-Buccaneers overtime game. I got a little nervous there throughout, but Packers sealed the deal at the very end with an Aaron Jones touchdown. Obviously, Brett wasn't too happy being a Buccaneers fan, but it was a good game. We paid a decent amount of money for it, and I think we got rewarded in a pretty good way. Now, the trip was, before I say this, we came back with a ton of cheese curds and beef sticks. If you ever go up to Wisconsin, you've got to bring home cheese and meat and just all the good stuff. You can never eat healthy in Wisconsin. It's just fantastic food, and you're going to gain a ton of weight, and it's going to be fantastic. I'll be snacking on a little bit of cheese and meat while I'm on this show today. So, as I was leading to, everything wasn't all like happy-go-lucky while we were up in Green Bay. We try to enjoy ourselves because we're on vacation, but my aunt and uncle and cousin, they lost their dog on Friday when we were supposed to go up there, and we were supposed to stay with them. And thankfully, I got family all over the place up there. But shout out to my other aunt and uncle who graciously took us in last minute due to the dog being lost, and that's traumatizing. Anyone who's lost a pet, that's a big deal. So we went out and looked for the dog. Toby is his name. Looked for him for a couple of hours in the woods at night. It was cold. It was windy, but I mean, he's been gone since Friday of last week. So, I mean, they've done just the community surrounding them at this point is incredible. I've never seen anything like this for a pet going missing. But they've had a Facebook page. Thousands of people are responding to it. Hundreds of people have gone out and tried to search. They've had drones with thermal cameras going out there and searching. They've had bloodhounds searching for this dog. And hopefully they find him sooner rather than later. Because like I said, by the time you're listening to this, hopefully he's been found. But at the moment, it's not, they haven't had, they've had sightings, but so far, nothing yet. But I just want to say, we don't have the biggest platform right now on this in this podcast. But if you are listening and you happen to know anyone, or maybe you are from the Schwamico, Wisconsin area, or if you just want to give tips or suggestions or just prayers to these wonderful people and their dog, just go to the Facebook page Get Toby Home and post on there. And like I said, if you're in that area, maybe go out and help. If you know people from that area, maybe tell them to go out and help. But we need all the help we can get to get Toby back home. And he's a wonderful, wonderful dog. One of the best dogs I've ever been around. So it'd be really, really, really nice to get him back home, nice and warm. And like I said, it's in Wisconsin, so it's getting cold. So we definitely need to get Toby home sooner rather than later. So before I move on, just want to give a shout out to my relatives up there, Becca and Rick, who let my aunt and uncles who let us stay at their place, and then Marty and Kim. They're the two that lost Toby. They lost the dog, so hopefully we'll get have good news for them as they're going through this tough time. Hopefully they'll find him sooner rather than later. And shout out to Todd. Todd actually owns the. If you've ever been to a game at Lambeau Field, there's a line on Lombardi Avenue, line of houses on Lombardi Avenue, and they've just been turned into these mega tailgate houses. They are incredible. And Todd actually has one, and he goes all out, has food, has beer, and just the whole 9 yards to provide, honestly, one of the ultimate tailgating experiences. So yeah, definitely shout out to all of them. Just thanks for the hospitality up north. I've got to give it up for the best fam in the world. Okay, now to the fantasy football news. I know kind of got a little grim there for a second. I wasn't meaning to do that, but losing a pet, you want to get him back. So yeah. Okay, to the news. Ryan Shazier has been transported to a Pittsburgh hospital to undergo further treatment. He has some movement in his lower extremities. I know we've all seen that hit from the other night. Oh, sorry. They just, I don't know. I'll mention the rest of the news because all of them really have to do with injuries and maybe suspensions and how the game's being played right now, because that's the talk of the town, and I got my own opinion. Maybe I can do a whole podcast on that. Honestly, I could go on and on, but anyway, prayers up to Ryan Shazier as well. Hopefully he gets good news and improves in the next couple of days. Rob Gronkowski has been suspended one game for his egregious hit after the play on Tre'Davious White. So he tried to appeal that one. That just adds to the poor image that Gronk already presents. So he will be out this week. There are plenty of tight ends out there streamable at this point. There are a lot of whom have popped up in the past couple weeks. I don't really like anyone on the Patriots to replace Gronk, but there are options out there. Juju Smith-Schuster has also been suspended one game for his hit on Vontaze Burfict. like I said, I'm not going to go too far into all this and my opinions. If you guys want to hear my opinions on that, maybe we'll bring it up on the podcast tomorrow. But if you want to hear it, I will be very, very happy to do a bonus episode about like the rules and these suspensions in particular. But today I maybe at the end, I don't think I'll have that much time. So Troy Vincent says speaking of this, I guess I'll dabble a little bit. Troy Vincent says the NFL may consider putting in a targeting rule like in college football in response to all these injuries that have been going on. This is the one I will speak out on right now. Targeting may be the worst. Well, I won't say the worst. I'll say how it's officiated in college football. Targeting is the single worst rule in any sports. Without question. I have no doubt in my mind about that. It's a hard-hitting game. I understand leading with the crown of the helmet, but how it's officiated in college football right now, if the NFL wants to bring that even remotely in, that's a problem. There is a big problem with targeting or how targeting is officiated. Last bit of news, Roger Goodell has signed a 5-year extension to stay the NFL commissioner. So all of you Roger Goodell haters, you're stuck with him for another 5 years on top of what he's already got. So that's all for the news. Jumping into the Week 14 matchups preview, and then we'll get the starts and sits at the very end. Okay, Saints and Falcons, Thursday night football game. Starting things off with a huge divisional matchup. Mark Ingram, Alvin Kamara. Every week you're starting them no matter what. I do want to say Mark Ingram, he didn't practice on Wednesday. He's dealing with a toe injury, so he is questionable for tonight's game. So just monitor that situation. If he's not out there, Alvin Kamara, you're starting him no matter what, but you're probably going to be watching that game expecting a very, very big game from Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas, he has kind of been underwhelming so far this year, a little up and down. Desmond Trufant and Robert Alford, they should have both of those guys in this game. So a little bit tougher matchup for Michael Thomas here. I still roll him out there, but he's just not been what we thought he'd be this year. He's not been that second-round guy at the wide receiver position. Falcons side of the ball. Devonta Freeman, Tevin Coleman, I think they're both playable from here on out. We're starting to see a little bit more of how they used to run things last year. Obviously, you're starting Julio Jones in this game. Matt Ryan, I'm a little skeptical of. Saints have a decent defense, and they've been pretty good against quarterbacks, so I tend to lean away from Matt Ryan. But, if that's all you got, you kind of got to roll with it. I know Brett's not here today, but I'll still pick my winner. I'm going to take the Saints in this one. I think they're still the dominant team in that division. Okay, Packers and Browns. Packers need this to keep their playoff hopes alive. This may be the last week. Brett Hundley is under center. Aaron Rodgers is back practicing. He can come back the week after this game in Week 15. So, it's time to get ready for that. If the Packers win this game, which hopefully they do, cross my fingers. I know my biases are coming out, but Aaron Rodgers will be back, and this team is just ready to take off. Honestly, it's going to be scary for a lot of other NFC teams. Jamal Williams, he's the Green Bay running back to own. It's clear he has looked fantastic. He's looked like one of the best backs in the league the past couple weeks. More consistent, a lot of hard-nosed runs. He's even catching out of the backfield. He got pretty much every touch in this last game, aside from the very last touch that Aaron Jones got, which ultimately won the game. And I do expect Aaron Jones to get a little more work than he did last week, but Jamal Williams, clearly the guy to own in Green Bay. I will, before I move on to the Browns, if Jordy Nelson, I just want to say, if he is on your waivers, grab him immediately. This is the point. First of all, he shouldn't have been dropped in the first place. I understand maybe a few weeks back, but if you held on to him for the past 2 or 3 weeks, there's no reason you should have dropped him in the first place. But that's beside the point. Hindsight's 20/20. But if he's out there right now, definitely grab him. If Aaron Rodgers comes back next week, Jordy Nelson and Aaron Rodgers can win you playoffs. They, without question, can win you playoffs. Week 15, Week 16, not the best matchups, but no one's really... If Aaron Rodgers is out there, Aaron Rodgers, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, they're matchup proof, honestly. Not many people can stop what they can do. And Aaron Rodgers can throw people open. Even if Jordy Nelson might not be able to get the separation that he used to get, Aaron Rodgers can make it happen. On the Browns side of the ball, Josh Gordon, he's the talk of the town right now. I don't see any really anything stopping him from what he can do. He looked like the old Josh Gordon in this past game. I know Kaiser and him have a little bit of work to do to get back to what Gordon was when he was like super, super elite, but I see no limitations for Josh Gordon. Really, I don't. And this is a pretty good matchup here. Kevin King, the Packers just placed on the IR. Devon House is dealing with a shoulder injury. They're ailing at this point at the cornerback position, and Josh Gordon can, we saw what he can do. He did it against Casey Hayward last week, who's been the best cornerback in football. So I'm all for Josh Gordon. Go ahead and roll him out there every week from now on, I think. Packers defense, I think, is serviceable in this matchup. But outside of this, I really prefer not to start them. So I'm taking the Packers in this one. Shocker. Especially, I don't even have to sound biased in this one. They're going up against the 0-13 team. Colts and Bills. I'd really prefer not to start any Colts in this one, if possible. Maybe T.Y. Hilton, maybe. But really, really prefer not to. Tyrod Taylor may not play after bruising his knee. So if Peterman gets a start, I am avoiding any Bills, any of them, outside of LaShawn McCoy. LaShawn McCoy, he's still getting carries if Taylor's out. If Peterman's in there, it remains to be seen if he can even throw the football. I got the Bills winning this one, however. I expect Tyrod to play. Bears and Bengals. Interesting matchup here, especially with the Bengals suffering an onslaught of injuries. They will have George Iloka back, who was the only player to get his suspension appealed. So that's a good sign for them. Joe Mixon, he is in the concussion protocol. We're going to have to monitor that throughout the week. Mixon's really been stepping up the past couple weeks. I wouldn't say breaking out completely, but he's looking promising. But yeah, we're going to have to monitor his concussion issue. I like Giovanni Bernard. If Mixon is out, maybe even if Mixon plays, I think maybe if he's a little under 100%, I like Giovanni Bernard. There's not really anyone besides him in that backfield, so Giovanni Bernard might actually get quite a bit of work. And if Mixon's out, I'm definitely rolling with him. Andy Dalton, I think he's a great streaming option this week, as well as Tyler Kroft. You're obviously starting A.J. Green, but Tyler Kroft at tight end position. If you're looking for someone to replace Gronk this week, Tyler Kroft could easily slide into that spot. Bears side of the ball, not liking Jordan Howard in this game. He let me down big time last week, and this is a very, very tough Bengals defense. Fonte's Perfect most likely won't play. He got rattled pretty hard by that Juju hit, so that'll hurt the run defense, but I still think the Bengals are very formidable up front. And I'm not really willing to start anyone on that Bears team outside of maybe Dontrell Inman if you're very desperate. He's been getting pretty much all the targets from Trubisky, so Inman might be viable. I got the Bengals winning this one, not even going to be close. Raiders versus Chiefs. Another important divisional matchup here. Amari Cooper, he's cleared concussion protocol, so they should have him back. Michael Crabtree will be back after his one-game suspension. And then on top of that, Marcus Peters has been suspended for this game. So, Raiders pass catchers, it's wide open. Chiefs have been very, very susceptible to the passing game pretty much all season, even with Marcus Peters in. So with him out, Crabtree and Cooper, if Cooper's 100%, they should have a field day on these guys. It shouldn't even, it should just be touchdowns left and right. They should have their way with them. I mean, you saw what the Jets did to him last week. Love Derek Carr, you just heard me rave about the receivers, but love Derek Carr in this matchup. I'm willing to start Marshawn Lynch. Not the greatest matchup. Chiefs are a little better against the run. And honestly, Marshawn wouldn't have done much if it wasn't for one run last week. But Lynch has looked a little bit better in the past couple weeks, so I'm okay starting him. Not really my favorite this week. Chiefs seemed to get a little bit of offense going last week. But outside of a few select people, you're still sticking with a few guys on the Chiefs' offense. Alex Smith, I think he's an okay play here. Kareem Hunt, hopefully he gets back to doing something. I still don't get it. Jets were a little bit of a tough run matchup last week, but Raiders definitely aren't. They should be able to exploit that big time. Kareem Hunt, you're still rolling him out there. Travis Kelce, you're obviously starting him. Tyreek Hill, starting him. Raiders' defense is not very tough at the moment. I got the Chiefs winning this game. I think Alex Smith actually has a very, very good game for the Chiefs this week. Cowboys and Giants. This will be the last game with Alfred Morris before Ezekiel Elliott comes back from suspension. And I expect Alfred Morris to have a good game here. It's going to be his last game. Giants' defense has been atrocious against the running backs. And Alfred Morris, they're going to go all out for him at this moment. Because, Zeke's going to be back in a week. And obviously, hopefully if you were the guy who had Zeke, you picked up Alfred Morris and you can just ride this on out. But Alfred Morris, if you have him, definitely starting this week. Dak, Prescott, Dez Bryant, Jason Witten, all have decent matchups. I actually really like Jason Witten for a tight end this week. We know what the Giants can give up to tight ends. Dez, I'm okay with playing. We finally saw him wake up last week. Janoris Jenkins is going to be out, or I think he's done for the year. But so I like him okay there. Dak, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a spot. I don't put him in the QB1 range anymore, especially with as long as Zeke is out. So I guess maybe if I was to choose between him or I talked about Matt Ryan a little bit ago, I'd probably lean towards the Matt Ryan side, honestly, over Dak. But, it's very close. It might be just a preference thing. But Dak has looked very, very poor without Ezekiel Elliott. Giants side of the ball, Eli Manning is set to start after the heinous debacle last week. So that's good news for the pass catchers. Sterling Shepard dealing with a hamstring injury, speaking of pass catchers. He's probably on the wrong side of playing this week, so we're just going to have to monitor that. If he is out, I'm really not willing to go out and find a receiver from that team to start. Evan Ingram, love him this week. He had a good week last week, even with Geno Smith. He gets Eli back, which he was going off with Eli as his quarterback, and Cowboys really aren't that great against tight ends. Sean Lee is expected to be back this week, so I hate Orleans Darkwa this week. Do not play him. I have no faith in the Giants running backs at all. I got the Cowboys winning this one. I think they're still trying to stay in that playoff hunt, and this is a good matchup against the Giants, who have just utterly crumbled so far this year. Lions and Buccaneers. Matthew Stafford dealing with a hand injury, was limited on Wednesday. I know the limited was very, very limited. He only took a few snaps, and even when he was around media or anything like that, he was trying to hide his hand. So I don't know. We're just gonna have to monitor that. I know. Stafford is a Iron Man when it comes to actually playing and getting on the field. So I expect him to be out there, but maybe a little bit hindered. Love Marvin Jones and Golden Tate in this matchup. Granted, that expecting Stafford to play, but Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, absolutely love them in this matchup. Doug Martin, moving to the Bucs. Doug Martin still in the concussion protocol. He did practice in full on Wednesday, so I expect him to be back this week. Now, Peyton Barber. Peyton Barber was the big waiver wire acquisition this week. A lot of people jumping on him. So, I think they like what they saw with Peyton Barber. If you followed on Twitter, at the 423 Football, by the way, if you followed over there, you saw I did a stock up and stock downs segment. I had Peyton Barber as a stock up. I think they like what they saw against the Packers this past week, and I think they're going to start using him a lot more. Doug Martin really wasn't doing much when he was in the past couple weeks, so I mean, Barber, especially in PPR, I like that he can really open up the offense. They were using screens like crazy in that game last week. So, I mean, even with Doug Martin back, I really don't like starting him in this game. I'd probably lean towards Barber, actually, especially in this one. Now, Mike Evans, there might be, I don't know, maybe some worry. I mean, Mike Evans is still a phenomenal talent. He really didn't do much last week. He got shut down pretty much all game, and that was against Packer corners who have been pretty poor this year. But now he's going to go up against Darius Slay in this one, and as we say all the time, Darius Slay, he slays. So I might be leaning, if you have a better option, I mean, it has to be clearly a better option. I would lean towards someone else other than Mike Evans. I like Golden Tate. I like Marvin Jones a lot more than Mike Evans this week. Deshaun Jackson, I think, might actually have a good game here. I got the Lions winning this one. I think it's going to be a very, very close game, though. Jameis Winston coming back last week really boosted that Buccaneers team. So I think it's going to be close. Vikings and Panthers. Very important game for playoff implications. Vikings have looked good all season, while the Panthers have been a bit inconsistent, up and down here and there. Tough matchup for both offenses, but still think there are points to be had. Latavius Murray, Adam Thielen, they're probably my top choices on the Vikings side of the ball. Kyle Rudolph, I think he's an okay tight end play. He's really getting back into the rhythm of things and in the loop on that Vikings offense. Stephon Diggs, he's getting to that point. It's kind of like last year. He's just kind of a little banged up, and you just see him disappear from the offense completely. So I don't know. I still kind of like Diggs. We know what he can do. He's a great talent, but I'd much rather have Adam Thielen out there. Case Keenum, if you've been using him as a streamer the past couple weeks, I don't think this is the best option to put him in. But, just flat out, I wouldn't start Case Keenum in this one. I'll just go ahead and say that. I did mention Latavius Murray briefly there for a second. I said he was one of my top choices. Not the best matchup, but if you were going to pick between Latavius or McKinnon, Latavius every day of the week. Now, on the Panthers side of the ball, Greg Olsen set to come back for this game. Don't really like him here. Not a good matchup. He's coming off an injury, so I'd avoid starting him. Devin Funchess, he's going to be going up against Xavier Rhodes. Not too friendly of a matchup there. Funchess has been on fire the past couple weeks, especially since trading Kelvin Benjamin. So I still think he'll get targets, but I just don't see him exploiting Xavier Rhodes that much. Last bit from the Panthers, not a good matchup, I don't think, for Christian McCaffrey. So he'll still get the ball, he'll still get touches, but I'm not expecting a big game from Christian McCaffrey here. I got the Vikings winning this one in a very, very close game, maybe by a field goal. 49ers, Texans. I don't like any 49er in this game, not even Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde let me down last week as well, and this is a much tougher matchup than what he had to face last week. So I'm just going to avoid any 49er. Garoppolo, I know people have been kind of high on or testing him out, seeing what can happen there. But I'm really not willing to start any 49er. On the Texans side of the ball, Will Fuller, dealing with a rib injury the past couple weeks, may return this week. We saw what he could do before the injury. Obviously, that was more with Deshaun Watson than Tom Savage, but Will Fuller may be an okay play here. Definitely a good matchup. I like DeAndre Hopkins. Love Lamar Miller. Lamar Miller, I think, has a fantastic game here. And then Steven Anderson. I think he's worth giving a look to, especially like all those Gronk owners. Steven Anderson's out there. He's been his targets have been through the roof for tight ends. He had 12 last week. He's lined up at wide receiver quite a few times, actually. So I really like Steven Anderson moving forward, and especially in this game. I got the Texans winning this one. I don't think it's close at all. Jets and Broncos. Tough matchup here for the Jets, but I think the Jets actually have enough weapons to, at times, exploit the Broncos. Josh McCown, I think he's just a QB2 this week. I'd prefer not to start him. But, I mean, I know a lot of people have been streaming him lately and even just holding on to him because I think he's top 5, maybe? Top 5 quarterback so far on the year. So, I mean, he's been very, very good. But the Broncos, I mean, they still have a stout defense despite their offensive struggles. I'm still playing Robbie Anderson. I think he's almost matchup proof. He's super, super fast, tall, athletic, great hands. And Josh McCown seems to be able to get him the ball. So I like Robbie Anderson still. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, I think he's a fine play here. I still think he's one of the more talented tight ends we have in the NFL at the moment. And the Broncos, if they can be exploited, tight ends are usually where that's at. I'd prefer not to start any Jets running backs. Matt Forte is still dealing with a knee injury here and there. Bilal Powell has become utterly useless. And Elijah McGuire just getting, spats of work here and there. Broncos side of the ball, Emmanuel Sanders dealing with an ankle injury. We're going to have to monitor that. Not the best matchup, however. Demaryius Thomas, I think he's an okay play. Now, Trevor Siemian, he's going to get to start again. I don't know what it is, but Trevor Siemian seems to be the key to C.J. Anderson's success. Anytime Siemian's out there, it's just Booker really doesn't get that much work, and C.J. Anderson gets quite a bit of work, and he's usually productive with it. He had 11 points this past week. So it's a very, very tough matchup. I really wouldn't start C.J. Anderson in this one against the Jets. They have a pretty good run defense. But moving forward, I think C.J. Anderson can provide you points, especially in the fantasy playoffs. I got the Jets winning this one. I don't think it's very close at all. Titans and Cardinals. Derrick Henry, DeMarco Murray, I think they're both startable in certain situations. However, I'd lean towards Derrick Henry just from here on out, honestly. I know we've been going back and forth on when this breakout is going to happen and when it's going to be Derrick Henry's job. I think it's slow moving, but I think Derrick Henry is on the better side of that coin at the moment. And Cardinals have been very, very good against the run, especially at home this year. So I'm avoiding starting DeMarco Murray at all this week. If I was going to choose, I would definitely go Derrick Henry over DeMarco Murray. Marcus Mariota, I think he's a nice play here. He's been getting in the end zone with his legs, which is very nice for fantasy purposes. Delaney Walker, probably my top choice for Titans pass catcher. Rashard Matthews could be back this week, but he might have to deal with Patrick Peterson. So I'd much rather have Delaney Walker as an option over Rashard Matthews. Cardinals side of the ball, Adrian Peterson dealing with a neck injury. Going to have to monitor that. He may not play. Kerwin Williams might be the guy. He's been dealing with a rib injury, however. So I don't know. I'd really prefer not to start either guy in this matchup anyway. So I don't know. If you have a better option, go for the other option. Love Larry Fitzgerald in this game. Absolutely love him. I think he has a fantastic game. Definitely, I think he's going to get in the end zone, have targets left and right. Big game for Larry Fitzgerald. Ricky Seals-Jones. I think he's a fine tight end play. We've seen him come on in a big way the past couple weeks. The targets have been there. And again, another option for all those Gronk owners who will be without him this week. I got the Titans winning this one, even though Titans have looked pretty atrocious so far this year, despite their record. I'm still going with the Titans. Redskins and Chargers. Both teams fighting for playoff spots. Decent matchup here for Samaje Perine. I think Perine is going to be used a lot for many fantasy owners in the next couple weeks. The matchups are pretty decent, and Perine is getting all the work in that Redskins backfield. Josh Doxson. I've been waiting for the breakout, and we thought it was coming there for a while. He's gotten in the end zone the past 2 weeks, I believe. But the targets really, they're not there. They're not the targets for number one wide receiver. And it's not a good matchup here. Casey Hayward's probably going to be on the guy. And Josh Doxson is no Josh Gordon. So I think Casey Hayward does fine shutting Josh Doxson down. So I'd avoid playing him. Jordan Reed has already been ruled out for this game. Shocker. Vernon Davis, I don't really like in this matchup either. So, if you were looking to have someone in place of Jordan Reed, Vernon Davis is not the guy. Chargers side of the ball, Keenan Allen has arguably been the best wide receiver in football over the past few weeks. He will be going up against Josh Norman most likely, quite a bit this game, but I think Keenan Allen's still I think he'll have a fine game here. I still expect him to get in the end zone. I like Phillip Rivers here. Like Hunter Henry, I think both of them, I think they'll find the end zone at least once in this game as well. And then obviously you're starting Melvin Gordon, despite his underwhelming performances in a few weeks. But Melvin Gordon, I think, is a fine play. I got the Chargers winning this one. I don't expect this game to be that close either. Eagles versus the Rams. Huge NFC matchup. Probably the game of the week, honestly. This is for possibly the number one spot in the NFC. Zach Ertz dealing with a concussion. We're going to have to monitor that throughout the week. Obviously, I've given you, I think throughout the show, I've given you at least 5 or 6 tight end options for Gronk. That might apply for Zach Ertz as well. Could be without the top 2 tight ends, or top 2 of the 3 top tight ends in fantasy at the moment. So, yeah, if Ertz is out, Trey Burton might be an okay option. But, again, I've listed about 5 tight ends that you could put in on other teams. I'm starting Carson Wentz every week. I don't really care the matchup. I think he's matchup-proof at this point. Alshon Jeffrey, Nelson Aguilar, I think they're okay plays. Aguilar has come on in a big way. He's had quite a few big games the past couple weeks. A lot of people have been honing in on Ertz and Jeffrey, and Aguilar has been able to exploit that. I'd prefer not to start any Eagles running back. You guys have heard my disdain for Jay Ajayi, or not disdain for him in particular, but the situation, it's not good. I'd prefer not to start any of them if I could help it. On the Rams side of the ball, tough matchup for the Rams offense. Not starting Jared Goff or any of the wide receivers for that matter. Robert Woods may be back. His status is still uncertain, but still not really looking to start him. The only guy I'm starting, Todd Gurley. You're starting him every week. That's a given. I got the Eagles winning this one in a close matchup. I think they'll win by 3 or 4, maybe. Seahawks-Jaguars. Playoff implicating matchup for both conferences. Tough matchup for the Seahawks. Seahawks have a actual pretty tough schedule coming up. So if you're looking at fantasy playoff matchups, Seahawks actually have some tough ones coming up. But here in particular, starting here, tough matchup for the Seahawks. I'm still starting Russell Wilson. I think you pretty much have to at this point. Obviously, you're not starting any Seahawks running backs. Mike Davis was a big waiver wire acquisition this past week, but not here, not against the Jags, and probably not going forward. So I didn't really understand the Mike Davis hype there for a while. It's Jalen Ramsey has been arguably one of the best corners in football. AJ Boye, arguably one of the best cornerbacks in football. So Seahawks pass catchers might be a little bit scary this week. Doug Baldwin's more in the slot, so I think he'll avoid the top two guys there. So I'd probably still put Doug Baldwin at the top of my list for the Seahawks pass catchers. Then Jimmy Graham. Jimmy Graham has been a monster in the red zone. 9 touchdowns so far this year. I don't see that slowing down here. I think Jimmy Graham has a pretty good game. Now, for the other wide receivers, I know people have been dipping their toes in with Paul Richardson and Tyler Lockett. I would avoid starting them at all. Moving to the Jaguars. I'd prefer not to start Marquise Lee in this one. Not a good matchup. I think the Seahawks will hone in on him even without their corners, or without Richard Sherman out there. D.D. Westbrook may be a sleeper in this game. I've been calling the breakout every week. I'm going to keep doing it until he breaks out. So D.D. Westbrook, I think he's a sleeper this week. Maybe an okay play. You're obviously starting Leonard Fournette. That's a given. I got the Seahawks winning this one on the road. Ravens and Steelers, Sunday Night Football. Steelers will be without Juju Smith-Schuster, as I mentioned before. You're still starting Le'Veon and Antonio, despite the tough matchup. Antonio's going to have a little bit easier. Jimmy Smith is out for the year with an Achilles injury, so Antonio Brown, good to go. You're obviously starting him no matter who he's going up against. He's matchup proof. Ben Roethlisberger, think he's an okay play here as well. And obviously with Juju being suspended, Martavis Bryant, if you want to get back on that train, maybe okay for this game. Ravens side of the ball, Alex Collins, I think he's the running back to own still. Danny Woodhead would probably be my next choice over Buck Allen. Obviously in PPR, Danny Woodhead and Buck Allen much more formidable than in standard. I got the Steelers winning this one. I don't think this one is close as well. Patriots and Dolphins, last game, Monday Night Football. Patriots will be without Rob Gronkowski, although I really don't think it matters other than to those who have Gronk on their team. But for the Patriots' sake, I really don't think it matters. Love Brady in this game. Love Brandon Cooks. Love Rex Burkhead. Start all three. I think they all have big games. Deion Lewis, he's been cooling off the past couple weeks, but if you're desperate, go ahead and roll him out there. Chris Hogan has a possibility to play this week. He practiced on Wednesday. So if he's back, I really, really love Chris Hogan here. I think if he plays, I expect 2 touchdowns without question. 2 touchdowns. Gronk is out. When Chris Hogan was on the field, he was outperforming Brandon Cooks every week. So monitor that situation. If Chris Hogan is in, definitely start him. And if he's on your waiver wire, go check your waiver wire because people might have forgotten about him after he's been out for a long time with a shoulder injury. And I got on the Dolphins side of the ball, I was going to say I'm willing to start a few people, but honestly, I think I'm just going to narrow that down to one guy. I'm not starting Cutler, not starting Kenny Stills, not starting Devontae Parker. Julius Thomas, maybe if you're tight end desperate, maybe Julius Thomas. Kenyon Drake, I think he's starting to be the guy, the playmaker guy, the spark in that offense, the Chris Thompson-esque player with even more speed in the Dolphins' backfield. So I really think Kenyon Drake has a pretty good game here against a Pats defense who really, they've been good, but they haven't been outstanding the past couple weeks. So I think Kenyon Drake can actually do some work against them. I got the Patriots winning this one. It's not going to be close at all. Okay. Moving into the starts and sits, I do want to say before I go into the starts and sits, we're getting close. A lot of leagues, a ton of leagues actually, are either in the playoffs right now, or this is the last week before the playoffs. They usually play like week 15 and week 16. So this is a prime time to listen to the show. If you have friends who might be interested in listening to the show, definitely share us and everything like that. Make sure you follow us at the 423 Football on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, so you can get all the up-to-date news and all the content you can possibly take. So, starts and sits. Since Brett's not here, I'm going to give you 2 starts and sits at each position. I'll even give you a sleeper. But if you want that third, we always do at least 3 starts and sits at each position. If you want that third start and sit, make sure you follow us at the 423 Football on Twitter and Facebook. I can't stress that enough. We put all of our content up over there. Okay, starts at the quarterback position. I'm going to go with Andy Dalton playing Chicago. I think he has a fantastic game. If Joe Mixon's out, I think they're going to pass a whole lot more, and the Bears are atrocious on defense. Alex Smith, starting him against Oakland. Oakland has been just very, very susceptible to the pass game this year, and Alex Smith seemed to get things going back on the right track last week. I expect more of the same. Running back starts. Jamal Williams, keep rolling him out there. He's got Cleveland this week. I know Cleveland's been pretty good against running backs, but I expect Jamal Williams to get a heavy workload, and he's a powerful back. I expect big things from Jamal Williams this week. Alfred Morris, starting him last game against the Giants. I expect a ton of carries, and I expect him to run all over that Giants crummy run D. Starts at the wide receiver position. Got Michael Crabtree going up against Kansas City. Crabtree's coming back from the suspension, so he's angry. Marcus Peters isn't going to be in this game. Even with Peters in there, the Chiefs have been very, very bad when it comes to defending wide receivers and quarterbacks, so I expect Crabtree to have a very big game here. Golden Tate, starting him, playing Tampa Bay. Even if Stafford's out or less than 100%, Golden Tate's fantastic for those underneath dump-off routes, and I think Tampa Bay is a lot more susceptible to those than the Marvin Jones-type big plays. Tight end starts. Got Evan Ingram going up against Dallas. Eli Manning's obviously the quarterback again, so Evan Ingram, I expect him to get back to what he was doing prior to this past week, which, I mean, Ingram did good this last week as well, so I really like Evan Ingram in this one. Sticking in this game, I'm going to go with Jason Witten as well. We know how bad the Giants have been against tight ends, and Jason Witten has been the security blanket for Dak Prescott in these hard times the past couple weeks. Okay, defense starts of the week. I'm going to go with the Bengals playing the Bears. Even with some missing pieces, I think the Bengals will pretty much dominate. And then the Bills against the Colts, I expect them to dominate as well. Now, moving to the sits. Sits at the quarterback position, going with Blake Bortles playing Seattle. If you've been relying on Blake Bortles as a streamer the past couple weeks, I know he's been a little bit, he's been decently consistent as a streaming option, but I do not like him this week. Jared Goff, I'm also sitting, playing Philadelphia. Goff, we've been all on him for the past couple weeks. He's been very, very formidable, but Philly has been fantastic just all around on defense. So I expect them to get after Jared Goff and force some bad decisions, which will lead to a poor game. All right, running backs. DeMarco Murray, sitting him, playing the Cards. Cards have been fantastic against running backs at home. And I'm also sitting Mike Davis. Mike Davis, the big waiver wire acquisition, Seattle running back. He's playing in Jacksonville this week, so I expect him to have pretty much no effect at all on this game. Wide receiver sits. I'm going Devin Funchess playing Minnesota, going up against Xavier Rhodes. So Funchess, we've been all about him the past couple weeks. He's been coming on strong, but this matchup, not the best. And I'm also sitting Josh Doxson playing the Chargers, going up against Casey Hayward. I think Doxson gets shut down in this one. Tight ends. David Njoku, sitting him, playing Green Bay. David Njoku, I know a lot of people have been jumping on his hype train as well. Love the guy as a talent, but Green Bay is actually, despite last week where they allowed Cameron Brate to get in the end zone twice, Green Bay's actually not allowed a tight end to be better than 14th. 14th in a given week this year, so I am avoiding David Njoku this week. I'm also avoiding Eric Ebron playing Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has also been very good against tight ends this year. Now, defenses, sitting the Panthers defense against the Vikings, and I'm also sitting the Rams defense against the Eagles. Sleepers, I'll give you one at each position. Quarterback sleeper, Brett Hundley. I think the Browns, he's playing the Browns, and Hundley's been pretty good, especially with his legs the past couple weeks. Running back, Gio Bernard. If Joe Mixon's out, and even if Joe Mixon is less than 100%, I think Giovanni Bernard can be very, very formidable. Wide receiver, Benny Fowler. Emmanuel Sanders might not play in this game. Benny Fowler might be actually usable in this game, maybe get in the end zone, crossing our fingers on that. Tight end, going with Steven Anderson. I talked about him a little bit earlier. I think he's arguably he's like Ricky Seals-Jones in that the fact that he's getting a ton of targets at the tight end position. And when it comes to tight ends, targets are probably the most relevant thing you can talk about in terms of fantasy production. Just give them the targets. They're bound to do something with it, and usually their targets are based in the red zone because, they're big guys, and they can definitely get the job done when targeted. Now, a defensive sleeper, I'll say the Packers defense going up against the Browns. Basically, any defense going up against the Browns is an okay streamer. Okay, that's going to be the show for today. We will be back tomorrow. That'll be our League of Record recap show. Things are getting a little dicey over there. It's getting very, very close. So we'll talk all that. We'll get some news tomorrow, and maybe, we'll see. It's a hot topic, but talk about the hard hits and concussions and all the rule changes that may be getting into the NFL at the moment. So we might have that on the show. So anyway, before I close it out, just another shout out to all the family up north. And if you know anyone, like I said, in the Schwamico, Wisconsin area, definitely try to help out the family up there, trying to find Toby. Again, go to the Facebook page, Get Toby Home, to get updated on all of that. So, follow us on Twitter and Instagram at the423football. Make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, and YouTube. Give us a like, leave your comments and reviews. Thanks for listening. We are the 423 Football Podcast.